Lord, from the depths I call to you. Lord, hear me from on high and give attention to my voice when I for mercy cry.
If you obey for 1,000 years, you are no more accepted than when you first believed. Your acceptance is based on Christ's righteousness and not yours. The fact is that sin is a bigger disaster than we think it is, and that grace is more amazing than we seem to be able to grasp. No one who really understands what Scripture has to say about the comprehensive, every aspect of your personhood, altering nature of sin would ever think that anyone could muster enough motivation and enough strength to rise to God's standard of perfection. The thought that any fallen human being would be able to perform his or her way into acceptance with God has the most insane amount of all delusions. Yet we all tend to think that we're more righteous than we are. And when we think that this is the case, we have taken the first step to embracing the delusion that maybe we're not so bad in God's eyes after all. This is why the reality check of Romans 3:20 is so important. Paul writes, "For by works of the law, no human being will be justified in his sight." If you prayed every moment of your life, you could not pray enough prayers to earn acceptance with God. If you gave every penny of every dollar that you earned in every job that you ever had, you could not give enough to deserve acceptance with God. If every word you ever spoke was uttered with the purest of conscientious motivations, you would never be able to speak your way into reconciliation with God. If you gave yourself to an unbroken, moment-by-moment life of ministry, you could never minister enough to achieve God's favor. Sin is just too big. God's bar is too high. It is beyond the reach of every human who has ever taken his or her first breath. This is why God, in love, sent his Son. God shows us that his love for us was there while we were still sinners, and Christ died for us, Romans 5:8. You see, there was and is no other way. There's only one portal to acceptance with God, the righteousness of Christ. His righteousness is given over to our account. Sinners are welcomed into the presence of the holy God based on the perfect obedience of another. Christ is our hope. Christ is our rest. Christ is our peace. He perfectly fulfilled God's requirement so that in our sin, weakness, and failure, we would never again have to fear God's anger. This is what grace does. So, as children of grace, we obey as a service of worship, not in a desperate attempt to do what is impossible. We cannot independently earn God's favor. For further study and encouragement, see Galatians 3:1-14.